Hello, hello, hello. ¿Me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan? Hello, hello, hello. ¿Me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan? All right, all right. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Long time no see, guys. Long time no see. This is Roman from Roman Just Codes. I'm just saying hi to some of my friends in the chat. How's everybody doing? This is Roman from Roman Just Codes. It's been a while since we put something together live. I just wanted to say hi to my friends in the chat. Para todos mis amigos en el chat. Ahí tenemos a Dyer. Ahí tenemos a Camilo. ¿Cómo están ustedes, mi gente? How's everybody doing? I haven't been here in a while, so I know that I kind of owed you something for you guys. So for everybody there, thank you so much for joining. I know a few other people might be joining later, but again, as a token of my appreciation for joining this stream, again, I am publishing a series of videos building applications for the watches, like like the Google Pixel 2, for the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7. So we're gonna be building Flutter applications for WearOS, building it with Flutter and Rive. So this session, I know that this live is not only just to publish the series. So if you go to YouTube right now, if you take a look at the YouTube channel, I've already published the 5 videos about this series, but tonight I'm gonna be putting together something so that you guys can see how it works, right? So that's exactly what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be creating a like a watch face. We're gonna be deploying it on a phone. We're gonna be developing it from scratch. So let me know, everybody in the chat, what do you want me to build? Please, at the QR code, scan the QR code if you want to win a $25 Amazon gift card. Vote for which watch face you want me to work on. So let me show you the. Actually, wait, hold on. Not yet. Okay, let's try it again. So I'm gonna be building this. There you go. Now we're good. I think we might be good. So I'm gonna be building a watch face for WearOS. You're gonna be able. A lot of people are doing like a lot of stuff with AI. Unfortunately, there's not much AI that you could do with Rive, but there's a lot of cool things that you could do for scripting with AI, which is great. But the creative process, you still need to create it by hand still, but then the rest of the stuff you can do it with AI. But the cool thing is that you can connect Gemini, you can connect any LLM, any APIs that you want to do to this applications that we're going to be building. So you could do that. Make sure to vote. Which one do you want me to build for tonight? Which one do you want me to build tonight? From 1 through 6, which one do you want? We're going to be taking a look at the, what people voted. And at the end of the session, in about an hour, I'm going to be raffling a $25 Amazon gift card. Just put your email, put your information, vote for the one that you want me to build, and that's exactly what I'm going to be at, where you're joining from. But make sure that whoever is here in the chat is the one that is going to be actually winning the gift card. Dorian, ¿cómo estás, hermano? I see a lot of people also joining. So a few people joining. That's great. So which one do you want me to build for tonight? Please vote, and then we'll take a look. Just want to continue saying hi. Also, again, I see. Okay, a couple of folks. Okay, I see people doing. Okay, you guys are spread it all over the place. Everybody's pick a different one. We're gonna see whoever then, whichever gets the most votes, that's the one that we're gonna go for, and then we're gonna do that. So perfect, yeah. So whichever you guys, I think number 5 is actually beating everybody so far, but please keep voting. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna do some announcements again. GDG Lawrence, if you guys are in Massachusetts, GDG Lawrence is going to have a series of events on building multi-agent applications, building multi-agent orchestration using Gemini in the Google Cloud. So if you're in Lawrence, Massachusetts, you want to join our event, March 28th and April 11th, you guys are invited to GDG Lawrence. We're going to be building building multi-agent orchestration using the Google Cloud. So make sure not to miss that. Awesome. Great. So yeah, please join. Put your votes. Which one do you want me to build for tonight? That's exactly the one that I'm going to be building. Remember, this video series is about building watch face applications using Flutter and Rive. So that's exactly what we're going to be building today. You guys can take a look at the YouTube videos that I've put together. It's pretty much the whole series. So you're not going to miss anything. Like the stuff that I'm going to be showing you tonight is already recorded. So you guys can go ahead and watch it on your own at your own pace. Take a look at that. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the alert buttons before you go. I appreciate everybody's support. So make sure to vote. Make sure to vote. Which one do you want me to build? That's the one that I'm gonna build. Let's start taking a look. Let's see how the results are. I'm gonna show you right here how the results are looking. Let's see how people are voting. I'm just gonna show you the responses, the results. As let me just show you right here. So this is what it's looking like. So people are saying, okay, so we're probably going for 5 or 6. I think those are the two. Okay, so people are. So let's see. Okay, see, you guys are split now. So I'm gonna have to then throw like a dice or something. I'll have to throw a dice and then pick which one is it that we're gonna be building. So make sure to vote. Let's take a look. Which one do you guys want me to build? And that's exactly the one that I'm gonna be building. We'll probably try to deploy it also on one of these devices. This is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7. This is a Samsung Galaxy Watch 7. It probably costs like about $150. It's pretty good. This is the one that I wear every day, and this is where I actually deployed this application. So if you guys, I'm gonna launch it right here. Look, that's the Flutter application, and then you'll see the app loaded in there. So you see, is that the app is loaded in there? Actually, I should show it in the. I should show it more. So there it is. Look, that's the application loaded on the actual watch. So this is no gimmick. You can actually load your applications in devices like that. So that's pretty much what we're gonna do. You could also buy the Google Pixel Watch 2. This is a Google Pixel 2, the Google Pixel Watch 2. This refurbished cost about $60, and it's pretty good. Like a lot of people think like, yeah, but that's probably too expensive. No, this costs $60, 60. You buy it on Amazon. It's like refurbished, and you can build applications for the Google Pixel 2. Then there's another one that I usually buy off of like AliExpress. This is the it's like a third-party watch that has the full version of Android in it, and they look pretty much like this. Like, these are pretty good. They're pretty decent. You can build a lot of cool things in it. Let me see. I think this one may not be fully charged, but this one costs $30. Can you believe that? This one costs $30, $30. And you can build really cool stuff. They have the full version of Android. And the cool thing about it is that you can sideload any APK, like even a full-blown application. It doesn't have to be for WearOS. So we're going to be explaining some of those things. So yeah, I mentioned this one costs $60, 60. If you go to Amazon right now, search for Google Pixel Watch 2 refurbished or like renewed. That's what they call it. It costs $60. So I bought this for $60. So it's pretty good. And you can use like any of these watches, and you can deploy your applications in there. So let's take a look. Okay, so we have a few folks already. Make sure to vote. Take a look at so far the votes are, we're probably split between 4, 5, and 6. So whichever guys you want to pick, that's the one that we're gonna be building. So so we say 4, 5, or 6. We can even do 5 so that we can mix it up, and then we can do it pretty cool. So we could probably go for something like 5, because in the video series for the building watch faces in Flutter and Rive, I did number 6. It's a variation of number 6. Sorry, like a variation of number 6, and even a mixture of 3. So you could watch the videos right now on YouTube, and you could learn how to build, for example, the one on number 6, a variation of 3 and 6. But tonight, if you guys want me to do it, if I still see that this is really split, we could go for 5 if you guys don't mind, and then we can try that one. So looking at the time, maybe we can start right now. But again, remember, vote so that you can win a $25 Amazon gift card. Just put your name, put your email. At the end of the session, I'm gonna raffle the watch at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing, let's take a look one more time. The votes are still the same. I still have a couple of people watching, but we are split between 4, 5, and 6. So we probably, we could wait just a minute or two, and then we can start. Meanwhile, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start creating the project, right? So let's create. By the way, is anybody using anti-gravity? I use anti-gravity now for everything. Anti-gravity is pretty cool. It's an IDE. It's powered by is very agentic. I use it for like all my development at work and my personal stuff. So it's pretty cool. So I'm actually gonna be creating the default project for now. And I think you guys are seeing right now. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a regular empty project for now. So if you guys can see the screen, I'm going to close the engine for now. I'm going to do Flutter, create, empty. I'm going to make an empty one, and I'm going to call it just like that, WatchFace. While this is creating, let's see where we are. Okay, I think we're probably going to go with 5 as folks are making up their mind. So again, for those of you who are just joining, remember we're going to be building a watch face with Rive and Flutter. Rive is this animation tool that allows you to build animations using vector graphics. They use their own runtimes for multiple platforms, but specifically for Flutter, it's pretty good because it allows you to create very engaging, very complex animations with very minimum code. Now they have a scripting engine, which is pretty cool. So I definitely recommend you guys go into Rive.app, and you can learn very cool. I also have videos on Rive, so make sure to take a look at that. And of course, we're gonna be using Flutter as kind of like the headless engine to load our watch experience in there. So let's make sure that we do that. So as I see people still making up their mind, I think we're gonna go with 5. Let's go with 5 because again, like I mentioned in the video series, I'm building a variation between 3 and 6. So you guys can watch the videos, the 6 videos, and you can learn something like that. So let's go with 5. I think that's gonna be the consensus. We're gonna go with 5, but still, please continue voting, continue putting your emails in there. At the end, we're gonna be raffling a $25 Amazon gift card as a token of our appreciation for you guys joining the link. So let's start right away because I think we have a little bit to cover. So let's try that. I'm gonna bring up the anti-gravity. So here we go. Awesome. Let's go. So here we go. Now let me CD into my project. So I'm gonna go inside of that project right now. So I think I have this one, and here we are. So for now, I'm just gonna be building it locally, and I'm gonna just launch it off of Chrome. But later, we're gonna connect to the device, and then we're gonna be able to deploy it to the device. So the first thing that we're gonna do is build the core basic project. So this is no regular than a regular a regular Flutter project. There's no special, there's no difference, there's nothing different from any other project. So the first thing that we're gonna do is make sure that everything is loading fine. So I'm just gonna do Flutter. Let me close the agent, that way we have a little more room. Flutter run Chrome. So we're just gonna run it off of Chrome so that we can develop it quickly, and then we're gonna deploy it on the watch. So the first thing we're gonna do is that, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of space. There we go. So now we have a little room to continue coding. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's see that the project is building fine and everything is looking good. So let's try that. Perfect. So there, I think it's coming up right here. Let me just bring it over. So there it is. So we have our basic Hello World project. There's nothing special about it. So that is pretty much what we're gonna go off from, and then we're gonna take it from there. Okay. So then now, what we're gonna do is let's start creating some of the initial pieces. Remember, we're building an application for a watch. So a watch, of course, is gonna illustrate the time. You're gonna be able to see the time, but not only the time, you can tap into other things like maybe the sensors on the watch. You can present information in multiple ways. In our specific case, we're gonna be building this experience, and you see how this watch has like the time, it has the date at the top, It has the time at the bottom, and then or like an appointment or something like that, or maybe anything that you want to feed into it. It has like the number of steps on the right, and on the left it has like the battery. So you could try something like that. And there's even, if you see here, there's like a notification. Maybe you can use it as a kind of like to show maybe email notifications or phone notifications. You can show it on the watch. So that's exactly what we're going to be building in this experience. So keep an eye on that. Again, like I said, as you're joining, join the raffle. So at the end, we're going to be raffling a $25 Amazon gift card because you're just joining this chat. So while you're joining us at the same time, subscribe, like, and hit the alert bells to get notified for more content like that. So let's continue. Are you guys listening well? I hope you guys are still listening. Everything is good. So let's continue. So now what I'm going to do is, let's come back to the code. And the first thing that we're going to do it really simple. It's going to be really straightforward. This is going to be like a one single file. We're not going to do much. So I'm going to go to the lib main.dart. And if you see here, there's not much code, right? But what we want to do is we want to create a separate, separate stateless widget. So we're going to create like the widget that will represent our watch face. So you do, let me zoom in, and then you could do, stateless widget. We're going to call it watch face. And there it is. And then instead of showing the body here and like a center widget, we're going to do watch face. Perfect. Okay, here we go. That's it. So that's pretty much what I want. And then in the watch face is where I'm going to show then the whole experience. This is, I made it stateless, but I think I should make it stateful. Here it is. There we go. Okay. So I made it as a stateful widget because I'm going to be maintaining some state in here. We're going to be loading Rive. Rive, remember, is that animation library, amazing animation library that allows you to create very engaging animations with very little code. You don't need to be a designer. I'm not a designer, but I like to create my animations using Rive. So that's exactly how we're going to load it. So for now, we're just going to show, let's just show something in here. Like, let's create actually, let's make this into a, center widget. And then we're just going to show like a text widget that says like a fake time here, like, 10:43, whatever, 45, whatever, you want to show something in there, right? Like the time. In this particular case, my scaffold, I'm going to make it all black. So I'm going to do background color. And then I'm going to make it all black, right? I'm going to say colors, that black. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so let's make the black color of the background, and then let the text here, like the text widget, we're gonna do like a style, and then we're gonna do text style, and we're gonna make it like all white. So let's do colors are white. Let me fix my formatting in here. Here we go. Perfect. There we go. So now that we have that, let's load it again. Let's take a look at our watch. Actually, let me kill it. Let's start it again. And then what I'm going to do is, let's take a look at the watch. Remember, this is what we're striving for. We're building that watch face, and then we're going to load it in Flutter. So let's make sure that at least we see like a fake time in there or whatever. You see, like, this is like a fake watch, 10:45, whatever the time is it. But the way that you want to do it in Flutter is, remember, you need to trigger the time. So what are you going to use to trigger the time? It's very simple. You don't have to do anything other than just using, for example, you could use like a time periodic. That's something that you could use. For example, here you can, let me zoom in. And in order for you to trigger the time, you can just come over here and do like override the init state. And you can have a method called like, load, time. And then here I'm going to create a method just like that, load time. Let's make it, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a timer periodic. I don't know if you guys have used a timer periodic. And that's pretty much what we're going to do. So I'm going to have a property up here that I'm going to make it as a string. And it's going to be like the time. And then the timer, of course, I need to import it. Of course, it's part of the async library in Flutter. I don't need to format it at the moment. I'm just gonna do something like this. I'm just gonna do pretty much that. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna print the hour and the minutes, and then that's it. So if I now, instead of just printing the hard-coded time, let's just look at the time. And all I'm doing, remember, I'm just creating a very basic stateful widget. In the init state, I'm just calling load time. And inside of my method load time, all I'm doing is I'm just triggering a periodic timer. I'm just going to be showing the time, or like, you know, the hours, minutes. Let's do the seconds. That way you can see that everything is actually happening in real time. So let's reload it, and here you are. So you see the time, and it's still like in 24-hour format. So you still need to, for example, you can format this piece right here, and you can say, for example, you can do like the calculation that I do is usually, just to make it simple, I just do like, you know, I do mod 12, you know, if it's equals 0, then put 12 else the hour. Something like that. And then now when you reload it, let me save it, reload it, and there it is. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm still not done. So if it's equals 0, then do the, sorry. Here we go. If it's equals 0, then do 12. Otherwise, just show the hour. Perfect. Okay. So let's try it again. And then now every time. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me reload it again. Yeah, all I want to do is just like show like a basic time that I can just at least see it on the screen, right? And then it's gonna look at the. Let's try it again. Here we go. Yeah, let me show you how I'm doing it over here, because it should be, you know, very straightforward. I'm just gonna grab that value and just convert it to like a string or something like that, right? Perfect. So let's try it again. Oops, sorry. Here we go. Let's reload it. There we go. So there you go. So if you see that, now it's going to show like A23, blah, blah, blah. Okay, perfect. So, but that is what I'm going to be feeding to Rive. That's all you needed to do in Flutter. You don't need to do anything else other than, of course, bringing like bringing some other packages and just show like the time. But this time that is happening in real time, now I'm feeding it to Rive, because Rive, again, you could do scripting in Rive, but I'd rather do the heavy lifting of like all the logic to talk to an API or call the sensors or whatnot. I leave it to Flutter, but then I leave Rive to do like all the animations and all of that. So that is pretty much how, like, you know, I like to handle it. I don't have to do like really like crazy stuff. So that's it. You see, now that you have the time is 8:24, blah, 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 and then it's just the time is passing. Now this is what I'm going to be feeding to Rive. How do you feed that to Rive? Rive is going to be the animation, but then using the concepts of data binding, view models, and all of that, I'm going to show you that in a minute. We're going to be feeding that to Rive, and Rive is just going to show it. Rive needs to know what the current hour is, current time, current seconds, and then he's going to display it accordingly. That's exactly what we're going to do. So see, that's all you needed to do in Flutter. You don't have to do much after this. It's very little. But as far as the core logic, this is all you needed to do. Now, for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill the application. I'm going to, of course, we need to later, you know, we're going to do it. We're going to continue later, but at least I wanted to show you all the other packages that you're going to be using. So you're going to be using Flutter pub add Rive. So you need to install Rive. You need the Rive's runtime. The latest Rive version is 0.14, I believe. If you see it right here, look, it's 0.14.4, because this one gives you the Rive native engine, which gives you a vector feathering. It gives you the view model, gives you data binding, gives you shadows, blurs. It gives you a lot of performance improvements from the previous version, and you could do really cool things with Rive and Flutter. So that's exactly what I recommend you guys do. So I install Rive. Flutter is there, is running our, you know, our very basic, you know, let me run it off of Chrome one more time. It's going to be running a very basic watch face, but you don't want it like that. What we're building is this one right here. So this is the one that I'm building, and as I'm showing that, make sure to join. Remember, make sure to join to win the $25 Amazon gift card. At the end of the session, I'm going to be raffling for those of you who stay right there watching this session. By the way, remember all these videos have been published to the main channel, so you guys can take a look at that. So let's continue. I already have my basic watch face. Now let's go to Rive. So remember, Rive is web-based. You don't have to do crazy stuff. You could just go to you could just go to right here. You go to Rive. Let me just go right there again. So you go to Rive.app, and remember, Rive right now, it gives you a free version, but the free version only allows you to create the experiences. You need to pay, if you go to the pricing, you need to pay $9 a month for you to then be able to export. But there's a caveat. Maybe a lot of people don't want me to say this, but there's a caveat. Like you could build stuff on the free version, and then you can export the REV file, which is like the backup file, and then you can send it to somebody who actually has the cadet version, and they can export it for you and send it right back to you. So that's a workaround. But again, I definitely recommend everybody to invest on the cadet version because it's really good. You're gonna go like addicted to Rive, to building really cool animations and exporting it and sharing with the community and all of that. So if you want to invest your time in really good knowledge that you could pair it with your AI skills or whatnot, do the cadet. $9 a month I think is really good. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just the Rive ambassador, but just because I love Rive, but I'm not getting paid for this. That's all I can say. But I definitely recommend everybody investing on the cadet version. You can do the free to start, but then you can move up to the cadet. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's create the file. Here in Rive, you can create files and then you can build like your experience. So we're gonna do an artboard. Artboard, remember, is like the canvas. Like if you're in Figma and you create a frame, or you're in Canva, you create like a canvas. So that's pretty much what we're doing. We're gonna build an artboard, which is gonna be where all our experience will be concentrated. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm gonna call the artboard. You need to have a name for the artboard. The artboard must have a name, because you're going to access that programmatically from Flutter. So what I'm going to name let me actually shrink it a little more, that way we can see the whole screen. So there it is. So the artboard, I'm going to name it Clock Face. I'm going to call it just like that. Actually, WatchFace. There it is. The WatchFace, remember, you have your artboard. Inside of your artboard is how you're going to be building your experiences. So what is it that we're building again? Let's take a look. So coming back over here to Figma, this is what we're building. So you see, you have like some font. You have like a font up here. You have some icons. For example, I need like a battery icon. I need a little shoe for like the steps. I actually don't know what that is. Like this, I think that looks like an alarm. I think maybe that's what it is, like a button, like for an alarm. I don't know what that is. I'll probably pick something else. Places where you can find, remember, Rive specializes in doing vector graphic, high quality animations, so you should honor that. You should find SVGs for building your experience. And if you want to bring those SVGs, those vector graphics into Rive, you should find them. There's a bunch of free places. Let's go to one that I know is called SVG Repo. If you go to SVG Repo, you can find like free SVGs that you can download. So let's find one for like a shoe, right? Like a shoe, like for when we're doing like the running, right? Let me see if I find one that looks kind of cool. Let's see. Well, like maybe like I said, running shoe. Let me see. Running, or maybe running. Oh, there it is. See, it showed me like maybe like a one that has to look like a line icon. It cannot be really complex. So it has to be like a line icon. I kind of like the one that I saw earlier. Let me actually go back. I think I'm going to go for this one right here. I think I saw it. Yeah, this one right here. So you see, you find your SVG, you download it, and then you can use it right inside of your experience. So I'm going to download that icon. That's for the shoe, right? For this experience right here, like the little shoe. Then I'm going to need one for the battery. So I'm going to try like battery. And then I'm going to find like a battery icon. So let's see which one. So anything. Like I'll just grab like, actually, let me find one where the battery looks a little thin. So maybe I could I'll try this one, but this one makes it look like it's empty. But all I want is something so that I can maybe make that animation. But I can start with that, and then inside of Rive, I can refine that experience. But I need something like this. So I'm gonna be bringing, actually, you know what? I kind of like these ones over here. But I don't know if they have the empty version for that one. That's okay. So I'm gonna grab the previous one. So I'll grab this one. I download my SVGs. So I have two SVGs: the running shoe and the battery. What else do I need? I need an alarm. So let me try the alarm. So I'm gonna do an alarm, and probably I could pick like yeah, I could probably pick something like this. And you see, now I'm going to import 3 SVGs into my experience. So I'm going to download that SVG. And I have 3 SVGs now that I'm going to be able to import. So going back to Rive, right here to my editor, the way that you import your SVGs, if you go to your downloads, I'm just going to grab my SVGs right here. And I'm going to drag them inside of Rive. And there they are. See, I have the alarm clock. You can see right there, you can hardly see it. I have the battery and I have the running shoe. I'm gonna be using these 3 SVGs in my experience right here. So I'm gonna add them there. So let's continue. Now also fonts. Like Rive has a bunch of fonts already. You can use like the text widget, and then you can try here, for example, like some of the fonts that they have. Which is okay. See, like this is they have other fonts in here, but what I would recommend is using your own font. Like try to bring your own fonts. You could use the stuff that is in here, which is pretty decent, but I kind of like to pick up my own fonts. Place for you to find free fonts, you could do thefont.com. I don't know if you guys have heard of thefont.com. Thefont.com, they give you a bunch of free fonts and are pretty cool when it comes to like downloading free fonts that you can import into Rive. You see, those are the benefits of having the cadet version, because you can import all of these things, you can build your experiences, and then you can export it. So let's pick a cool font, very readable. It has to look as similar like this one. So let's try something like that, like a thick, bold font like that, like 1037, like that one. So let's try, I'm gonna go with of course, the sans serif, font. And then let's try to find something cool. So it has to be like really thick and like bold. So you can find something, I'm going to try to put like the time. Let's see what it looks like. If I say 10:37, and I'm going to let's do 200 fonts. Let's do large, and let's take a look. Let's see how they look. So I want it to look thick, like very bold, but it has to be readable. So you need to ensure that whatever font you pick, for example, you're not going to pick any font that doesn't give you numbers. So you need to ensure that you could do that. So let me pick one that is like really bold and thick. So I'm just finding one, whichever one I pick. For example, you see this one kind of looks cool. So this one is called Milker. I'm going to try this one. But let me take a look if there's another one, like a thicker sans serif type of font. This one is okay. This one looks thick. I kind of like that. This one looks cool. Let me see. Does it look like that one? Very similar. Let me see. Yeah, this one looks pretty similar. You guys want to try that? We could probably go with this. I'm going to do this Tondu. And if not, I think that will probably be the winner. I want something, again, that looks thick but looks readable. I can see all my numbers, and then I can show it in there. Yeah, I think even this one. Let me see. If I pick this one and then I see that one looks pretty close too. I kind of like this one. You know what? I'm actually changing my mind. I'm going with this Peace Sans. I'm gonna go with that one. So Peace Sans is the winner. So how do you import it into your Rive experience? So how do you do that? So I already have it in my downloads, and all you need to do is come over here to your Rive editor. Let me just bring it over. And then the Rive editor, all you need to do is just drag the font inside of Rive. That's all you need to do. Look, drag it, done. Now I'm going to call this, of course, WatchFace. Let's come back to the hierarchy, and there it is. You see, now that's my font. And now if I zoom in, now because I dragged the font inside of Rive, I should be able to find it here. And what is it called? Peace Sans. There it is. Peace Sans. Perfect. So I have my Peace Sans. That's my font. So I'm going to be starting building my experience. So the first thing that I'm going to be building is coming back over. So I'm going to be building like the numbers, like 1037. They need to be bold, one at the top, one at the bottom. It needs to support 2 characters. So I'm going to be building something that has 2 characters at the top, 2 characters at the bottom. Let's try that. So I'm going to be doing, for example, like, 10. And of course, because I'm working on on a square artboard. But remember, the watch face is rounds. You need to ensure that everything remains within. Like you could even create like a little placeholder, like a circle like that, so that then you can make sure that everything remains within this boundaries, and then you can lock it. You could just use this as a placeholder so that you can see that your experience still remains within the boundaries. You can try something like that. So I'm gonna make this like full black, and then we're gonna use this as a like our like the example surface. Perfect. So now I'm gonna need to make this center all across. I'm gonna increase the font. I still need to stretch it because remember I'm gonna support 2 characters, right? So I need the 10 right here. Let's take a look at the design one more time. There it is. It's the 10 and then the 37 below. There it is. So I need the 10, but what is the maximum that it could have? Remember, the largest character could be like 24. So I need to ensure that 2 characters show here. So I kind of want to stretch this a little more. So there it is. So if I have a 24, but remember, you can have 99, but at least you can have 00. At least you can have something like that so that you can see that your characters are fitting nicely. So this is my text widget for the hours, and I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it hours. Let's call it hours. And remember that the design has like outline. So how do you do that in Rive? In Rive, you select your text widget, and right here you can see, for example, like the styles, the text styles. You can just come over here, add another type of style for strokes, and then I'm gonna use a white stroke, and then let's increase the stroke to something like that. Let's see what it's looking like. So it's something like that. See, something like that, like 1037, something like that. Perfect. So, and then if I change it to 10, it will look like that. And then now all I need to do is I will probably have to duplicate this one, and I'll make the 37 right here. So I'll do, for example, 37, like the minutes. But you see, now I have these 2 right here, but I should be able to fit it accordingly. I need to ensure that all the other pieces come into play. I need to have the text that shows here. I need to show stuff that shows here and on top. So if I look at the circle, I think it still fits. So that I think that's going to work out. Perfect. So let's keep it like that. Let's say, 1037, if I do 2 characters, if I do like 99, if I do 00, everything is going to be fine. So let's keep it at 1037. Perfect. So now it's looking okay. Now we have like the middle piece, right? So we have the center piece already shown. Now, how do we do? You want to do like a quick test and make sure to start testing our application, to start testing this in Rive and in Flutter. Let me show you how to do that. So the first thing that you want to do is remember the concepts that we want to hone in this series is the data binding and view models. View models are these entities that feed your UI with data. It's kind of like in Flutter, you have like the MVVM pattern, and then in your view models are what hydrate your UI with data and then make it rebuild. In the case of Rive, view models hold the data that populates the UI. In this case, the way that you do a view model and then that you do the data binding in Rive is this way. You come over here to the data. You see here like the data tab. I'm going to go to the data tab. And you see that you already have like a sample view model. So view models, you create them by, if I delete this one, you see you have like view models, enums, converters. We're going to get to those in a minute. But you make sure that you create a view model by clicking on the plus. You do view model. And now I'm going to call this, for example, WatchFace View Model. I'm going to say WatchFace VM. The view model is where you're going to do, and you're going to put your properties that you're going to populate the UI with. For example, for numbers, you could do a number property. And look at the properties right here. Inside of my view model, I can do numbers, I can do strings, booleans, colors. We're going to take a look at the color. Triggers, you could do triggers. Enums, we're going to take a look at enums. You can add images. You could do other view models. We're going to take a look at that. You can have view models inside view models. So that's something that we can take a look at later. But for now, see, I'm creating my own view model, and I'm going to add 2 properties, 2 string properties. I'm going to add an hour and then minutes. So we're going to do here, I'm going to do string, and then I'm going to call this hours. Why am I making hours a string? Why? Because I may have numbers that are like this, or numbers that are like that. And then that way I want to keep those as characters, and I can just feed it into my text widget, and then it should be good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the hours field. I'm going to add another one for minutes. And then that's it. You see, you have hours and minutes. So you have two properties in your view model. Now, how do you make sure that those two properties are bound to your text widgets right here? How do you do that? This is how you do it. You select the artboard right here. You see WatchFace artboard? You come over here on the right-hand side. There's this view model drop down, and you can see the view model that we already created, and then you can have multiple view models. But this is the view model that I want to bind to my artboard. And then now once you bind that view model to the artboard, anything that is in the artboard, then you can bind it to those properties. So I select my WatchFace VM. Now that my artboard is controlled by this view model, now I can select my widgets. For example, the hours widget, and this one I'm going to call it minutes. And then here, for example, in the hours widget, in the text widget, I click on the run. I click over here in the text run field, and I click on data bind. Look at that, data bind. And then when I click here, now in the property drop down, you can find your view model, and then you can bind it to the property that you want. In this case, it's hours. So I'm going to do it hours. You can do like converters, for example, like a number, you can convert it to a string. You can convert an enum to a string. You can convert a string to a color. You could do a bunch of converters. That's what converters are. We can take a look at that in a minute. But here I just want to show you the three types of bindings that you could do. You could do target to source, bidirectional, and bind once. Bind once, it just binds it once, and then that's it. Target to source, meaning, let's say, for example, you have the default is actually target to source, meaning you're going to do it with code, and then the target will be, for example, let's say that particular widget, and then the source is your code. You're going to be feeding that into that target, which is that widget. Bidirectional is that either the widget or the code can update it accordingly, whichever. And then the bind once is just that it gets bound once. That's it. For now, I'm binding everything's gonna be default, and by default, it's actually just the target to source. That's it. I'm gonna do the minutes now. So in the minutes, I'm gonna select my run, right click, data bind, and now I'm gonna bind it to the minutes. You see the minutes right there? Perfect. Now, how do you test this and ensure that your view model is bound to the artboard, and now I can change those numbers? How do I change those numbers? Via those properties, like these properties right here. Like, how do I change hours, and then I see the hours here? How do I change the minutes, and I see it there? So let me go to the way that you do it is you go here, you go to animate, you have your state machine. I'm gonna name my state machine WatchFace. Also, I'm gonna call it WatchFace. And remember what a state machine is. A state machine is just a series of it's kind of like how you organize and orchestrate your animations. The state machine is what plays your animations, what triggers them. And then you can have everything orchestrated in there. So my WatchFace is just going to trigger the artboard default animation. And then when I play it, you see how now the text says like initial value is because by default, view models, let me stop it. View models with properties of string, the initial value is actually string that says initial value. So I'm going to make them all 0, 0 for now, for example. Look at that. So I'm going to make it 0, 0. So you can select the view model. And if you select the properties, you can see the fields on the right-hand side, and then you can change them in there in real time. Also, view models, just like in object-oriented programming, you can create instances of a view model. That way you have a view model, it's kind of like a class, and then you can create an instance of that class or an instance of that view model, and then you can have multiple instances of that same view model that you can bind to your objects, and then you can swap them at real time. You can swap them programmatically in real time. So in this case, you see there's like an instance of that WatchFace view model, and it's just called instance. I can rename it, and I could call it just, WatchFace. That's the instance of the view model. So now if I play it again, let me play the animation again. There it is, you see? And now if I go to data, while I'm running, I can test it. I can type, for example, 12, and then I can type here, 50, something like that, you see? And now you see the numbers showing, which is cool. Perfect. So that is how I tested that everything is working fine. So now Now, how do you bring this into Flutter and now you test this so that way you can test that that I can feed the hours and the minutes into my Rive animation. Let's try that. So the first thing that you need to do, remember, you need to ensure that your artboard is named. In my case, it's called WatchFace, and the state machine is also called WatchFace. Let's export this WatchFace. I'm gonna export it. You click on Publish to Rive, and then this is, you see, this is what the $9 gives you. You can export. With the free version, you can only create, but you cannot export. So I'm gonna click on Export your Rive file. There it is. It's exported. Now let's come back to the project and let's bring it in. The way that you do it, remember, you can just create a folder called Assets. That's it. And I'm going to bring my new animation in here, the WatchFace. So the WatchFace file, I'm bringing it in. There it is, my WatchFace RIV file. And now I'm going to, of course, I need to set up in my pubspec.yaml, I need to set up that I want to use those assets. So as always, you have to say assets. You see, you could do it like that, or I'm just going to say, just do everything within the assets folder. That's it. So you see, now I'm ready to consume it within here. So how do you consume that Rive widget? Instead of us using our boring watch face, I want to show the watch face that I'm building. I want to show it there. So how do we do that? So the first thing that you need to do, of course, is create an instance of a Rive widget controller. So the way that you do it is you do this. You say Rive widget controller. The controller that will control that animation from Flutter. So you can just make it nullable and call it like controller. You also need an instance of a view model, because remember, you're also going to tap into that view model and you're going to access those hours and minutes properties in Rive from your code. And then you need a view model instance. So you need a view model instance, and then I can just call it VM, something like that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the time. And right after the time loads, I'm gonna load I'm gonna load Rive. So I'm gonna say load Rive. And by loading Rive, that means I'm gonna say load Rive. There it is. So by loading Rive, I'm gonna load that experience. I'm gonna load the file. I'm gonna bring it from the assets folder. I'm gonna instantiate it, load my file, and then I'm gonna create an instance of a Rive widget, and then I'm going to show that in there. So I already have a little bit of the code already ready for you. That way I can save you a lot of the time. But this is pretty much how we do it. The way that you do it is when you load the Rive, you have to load it from the file system. You have to load it from the assets folder. So you see here I have like my let me explain the code. So what you need to do is you need to import, actually you need to make this async, of course. And then this is how you need to do it. You need to load the WatchFace.Rive from your assets. Then you need to decode those bytes and you load it as a buffer, right? As an array of bytes. You need to bring that in. And this is very key. You need to use the Rive factory, because the factory option gives you either Flutter or Rive. The Rive factory is what gives you access to the Rive native runtime engine, which uses a native C++ engine underneath the hood, which is very performant. But if you use Flutter, you're not gonna get the goodies of Rive. Like you're not gonna get data binding. You're not gonna be able to get data binding. You won't be able to get like those really performant features of Rive that you can tap into Flutter. So make sure to use the Rive factory by default. So once you've loaded in memory and now you have the kind of like the Rive file already in there, now you instantiate a Rive widget controller. So this is how you do it. So you can instantiate a Rive widget controller, and remember what we called our artboard. Our artboard is called WatchFace, and there's a state machine called WatchFace. That's exactly what you need to do in here. So you instantiate a Rive widget controller, and you load a state machine by name. What is the name of the state machine? WatchFace. What is the name of the artboard? Also WatchFace. It needs to match, otherwise you won't be able to load. Look, so you do WatchFace, WatchFace, come to the code, and you load it like that. Perfect. After you do that, now you hook up the binding. Remember, we already initialized the the widget controller. Now you need to instantiate and pull the reference of the view model instance that is in Rive. How do you do it? You do it like this. You say controller, you use a controller for that. You say controller data bind, and then you say data bind.auto. Auto means it's just gonna auto bind to whichever view model is already hooked up to that artboard. You could actually find it by name. You could say by name or by name. You see, by name or by instance. You remember the name that I put here to my instance? I called it WatchFace. You could also come over here and say by name, and you could say, you can actually say WatchFace also. This also works, but I usually keep it as auto. That way, I don't make a mistake or anything, and then I know that it's already auto bound. After that, then you need to tell Flutter that Rive is initialized. So I'm gonna create here like a little Boolean flag. I'm gonna call it like is loaded, right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tell Flutter, hey, your widget is loaded. Now you're ready to use it. So what I'm gonna do is instead I'm gonna load Rive first. That way, because I need to make sure that it loads first, and then I'm gonna feed it the time. So I need to ensure that the Rive is loaded initially. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove my boring watch face. Where is it? Yeah, it's right back there. So I'm gonna remove all this, and I'm gonna use my new watch face, which is here. So let's try that. I'm gonna remove this center thingy. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna say return. If it's loaded, if the widget loaded, I'm gonna add a Rive widget. So remember, you need a Rive widget controller, and you need to give it to your Rive widget. So you give it the controller. You don't need to pass the artboard because it's already part of the controller. So all you need to say is, I don't need this. I'm just gonna do const size box shrink, something like this. Perfect. So now I'm saying if it's loaded, load the Rive widget, pass the controller. Otherwise, just don't show anything. You could do a loading if you want, but it's very fast, it's very tiny, and remember, the animation is already 154 kilobytes, which is okay. Now let me kill the application, start it again. Let's make sure that it's loading. Awesome. So while I'm building, make sure to join the raffle to win a $25 Amazon gift card. At the end of this session, I'm gonna be raffling a $25 Amazon gift card if you join and vote for that. So let's try, and there it is. That is my watch face, and nothing is happening because I haven't fed anything into it. So now how do I feed this hour and this minute and this second? How do I feed it into this widget right here? You use the view model instance. That is how you do it. So you're gonna be feeding the view model right here after it's loaded. This is how you're going to access these two properties. How you're going to access this view model with these two properties. Remember, the widget is auto bound to this view model because my artboard has this view model already attached to it. So you want to access these two strings, the one called hour and minutes. So that is what we're going to do. So the way that you do it is you do it like this. You say VM string, and now you name the two properties. We have one called hours and we have one called minutes. So I'm going to come back over and I'm going to say hours. And because hours is a string, I'm just going to say that value. And I'm going to use the logic that I'm using here, for example, like for the time. In this case, I'm just going to just give you something fake so that you can see it. I'm just going to say 12. And then now I'm going to say VM dot string. Then what did I call this one? It's called minutes, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna type it. I'm gonna call it minutes dot value. You have to actually use the the exclamation point. You say value equals, let's say 30, something like that. You see right now it says just 00, but now let's feed it the 1230 value in it. Let's take a look at it just so that we can start seeing something. So if I rebuild it, you see it says 1230. But now what I want is every time the time tickers, every second, I want to change it there. I want to send it to Rive. How do you do it? Instead of do it here, you're going to do it inside of the timer. So now I'm going to cut this information from here. And inside of the timer, instead of doing a set state, I don't need the set state anymore. Why? Because Rive, again, is so efficient that when you get the instance of the view model, you don't need to tell Flutter to rebuild. Rive is going to rebuild on its own using that Rive native engine and using that C++ very efficient native engine is going to rebuild the widget internally. Because what Flutter does is Flutter gives Rive like a texture, like a native texture, and says, look, you could do anything you want in here. Just let me know. That way I can put you in there, but then after that, you do whatever you want. So you don't have to call set state anymore. That's the cool thing about Rive. And here, all I need to do is just this. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the hour. Remember, the same way that I was doing it. What was I doing? I was saying like if the hour blah blah blah. So I'm doing something like this. So I'm saying like that, and then I'm just saying to string, like just send the string version of that, and then I'm gonna do the now that minute dot to string, for example, right? And then I usually know that the minutes is usually, 1, 2, 3, but I wanted to pad it. So remember, you usually do the, pad left, and then you do like the 0, I'm sorry, you say, I want to do pad left, keep it at 2 characters, and then if you only have 1 character, just pad it with a 0 at the beginning. So I'm going to do, you could do the same thing with the hour, and then you always pad it to always have like that 0 at the beginning, just in case. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do toString, and then I'm going to pad it. Perfect. So now let's take a look. So every time the timer ticks, it's going to tell Rive, update it with the corresponding value. So let's try that. And you see the cool thing, I didn't have to say set state. If I reload it, let me see, 8:57, and it's already padded. Let's take a look at the seconds, because you want to see it like quicker. So I'm going to change it to the second one. That way you can see it. It's just so that you can see it. You see, like it's in real time, it's just updating it. But it's the second. Well, of course, we're going to hook it up to the minute, but the other ones, we're going to create it programmatically as well. Awesome. So make sure to, like I said, vote to win the $25 gift card. Let's come back and let's continue. So now that I have it hooked up, I know that I'm going to be able to see the hours and the minutes in here. And then I reload it. Right now is 8:58, so that's okay. There it is. Now let's add the rest of the experience. What do we want to do in the design? So I think we have this pretty much done. Let's try to create, for example, the text that gives you, something in here. Actually, maybe we can start with one of these. Let's start with, oh no, wait, I think I missed this one, the AM. We need that piece. So we need like a widget that gives you the time, if it's either AM or PM. Let's try to do that one. So all I need here, I come back to the design mode, come back to the hierarchy, and I'm going to add just a widget in here. And then it's going to say like AM or PM or whatever. So I'm going to shrink the text. And I think that font looks a little more readable. So I could use any of the fonts that I have here that is like basically readable. It doesn't have to be that one. So I could use, for example, that one. Which one is this? AR1 Sans. Perfect. So I'm going to keep it there. I just need to ensure that every time I do AM or PM, everything is going to just display correctly. So I'm going to keep that guy somewhere there. I just don't want it to interfere with this side right here. Remember, I'm going to be building this widget right now. I need a text that shows like that, and I need something that looks like a bar like that. Okay, so let's try that. I'm going to make this a little smaller. And remember, if this was Flutter, you would have had to download a separate package that gives you like the curved bar or something like that. Here in Rive, you don't need to, because you already have a bunch of components that are native primitive components that you can use for that. So let's build this experience right here. Look, let's build this guy right here, like the steps progress bar. So let's try that. So I'm gonna grab an ellipse. I'm gonna put it like this. And then I'm going to remove the fill, but I'm going to use the stroke. So I'm going to keep the stroke, and I'm going to make this a little thicker, something like that. You see, it still has to be within that black circle. I don't want it to go outside. Perfect. So I know I'm good. What color is that? That looks a little bit like a greenish color, but you could color it anything you want. So I'm going to color this for now. I'm going to color it like this. But I don't want it to be the whole circle. I want it just a portion of that. So the way that you do it in Rive is you select your ellipse. Is this the one? No, that's the back one. So this is going to be my steps. Let's say bar. Steps bar. Let's call it steps bar. And then here, right here next to the stroke, there's this like a settings icon. And here you go for the effects. If you click over here on effects, you can click here, path effects, trim effect. And then here you can then trim it. Like you say, oh, I'm going to make it either, you know, something like this. So the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to do, for example, 40 and then starts at 20, something like that. You see, or actually let's move it a little backwards. So let's do 10. And then let me see, how big is it? Yeah, we can make it a little smaller. So let's actually make it a lot smaller. So I'll do 15 and then 35. Yeah, something like that. You see, between 15% and 35%, then any increments, for example, you can measure it between like 15 and 35, something like that. Or the way that I like to do it is, for example, I ensure that, for example, the start is 0, and then here is, for example, the end is 20. But then what I do later is I rotate it. So pretty much that's how you do it. So let's say you rotate it by 45 degrees, and then you know that it's always going to be there, and you know that between 0 and 20, and then you can normalize your value. So after you have that, now I don't like the squarish type of borders. I want it a little more round. So the way that you do it, you use these properties right here, like to make them round. You see, like you have like round edges to the border. And then I'm going to increase it a little more. I think I can make it a little thicker. Let me make it like probably 25. There it is. And now this is going to be like that side. Remember, this is going to be the side of the, you know, the bar. I think it's a little still big, but let's keep it like that. We don't have to go too crazy. But what I want to do is I want to keep that as the background. And then I'm going to do another one on top for the actual progress bar. So I'm going to keep this as the bar background. And then I'm going to do another one on top, and I'm going to call it bar value. So this one is going to be probably like, 10%. Oh, no, actually, let's keep it like, 50%. No, maybe less. 25% of the opacity. There it is. So 25% of the opacity, while this one sits on top. And then whenever I programmatically change the value, you see it's going to look something like that. Maybe I can increase it a little more. Let's do 35. Something like that. And then when I change the value between 0 and 20, and then all I'm going to do is just like programmatically normalize the value between 0 and 20%. And then I'm going to create like that, progress bar. Perfect. So you see, now I'm fleshing it out. What other things do I need to add to my widget? I have the icon. So let's do the little shoe icon. So let's bring that shoe in. You go to your assets, and you see I have all my icons right here. So I'm going to be bringing my running shoe. Here it is. It looks black. That's why you can't see it. Let's change the color. And you see that is my running shoe. And I'm just going to change it and put it like somewhere here like that. You see? And then now I know that I have like the shoe that is going to be like the steps for that icon. Maybe I can make it something like this. I can shrink it a little. It doesn't have to be that big. And then we can just keep it somewhere there. Perfect. You see? That's it. So now I have like the icon, like the shoe. It's looking a little similar. We don't have to make it exactly like that. Now I need some value that is also going to follow like a path, like a text that is going to follow path. But it has to start from the right. That way when it grows, you can just feed it into that. So let's try something like that. I'm going to add another text widget. I'm going to keep that same font, what do we call it? AR1 Sans. And I'm going to use the same color. So for example, I'm going to make this font, I'm going to make it right aligned. And I'm going to make it a little larger like this. And then for example, if I do 85K, for example, it's going to look like that. But it has to start from the right. So now what I just don't want to add it like this and just be done with it. I mean, you could, and you could just do that and then you're done. but I rather make the text go around like a path. So it makes it look more legit. It goes around the text. Because if you have like, 85,000, you see that it's going to look like that. It looks ugly. You don't want something like this. You want actually something that goes around a path. So for that, you're going to need another one of these ellipses. So I'm going to do an ellipse like this, right? And then I'm going to call this, let's say steps text path, because it's going to be the path that our text is going to follow, right? And here I'm just going to call this like, steps value. I call this steps bar value and this steps value. Perfect. So now that you have your bar, your path, I'm going to remove the fill. And now what I'm going to tell this text is go around this path and make sure that you follow it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So the way that the way you do it is you select the text widget right here. You select the text widget. Let me actually make it straight and then keep it somewhere here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here where you have like text modifiers. You have text modifiers in Rive, and then the way that you do it is you click text modifiers, and here where it says modifier group, you click on, oh wait, I think I'm blocking it with my face. Let me actually move this over, and I think you guys can see it there. Okay, so now I'm gonna click on my text, go to the modifier group, click on the plus, and then you do follow path. I think I was covering. So I do follow path. And now when I say follow path, you select the target. What is the target? That steps text path. So I'm going to select it. There it is. And you see how the text is already following the path. And then you can just change it like this. And you see how the text follows the path. And then you can just do whatever you want. You can, I think these are, for example, like some, values that you can change. To make it, for example, you want it to go inside, you want it to go outside, you can change some of the, you can change how it goes around. These are like some of the values that you can do. You can change the offset, how it goes. For example, in this particular case, you can see, for example, like how the text is there. You can, for example, in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the text go above and then the shoe goes below or something like that. So I'm going to change the text, and then I come over here, and then I change remember the modifier group, and then you can change this. For example, you could do something like that. I'm gonna change the font to make it a little smaller. But you see, the cool thing is that I know that it goes around the circle, and then I can make it something like that. I'm gonna bring the shoe. I'm gonna put the shoe here instead, because I think it's gonna look much cleaner. So let me bring my shoe. Where's the shoe? That's my shoe, and there it is. So perfect. So now I have here this the text that you're gonna see like 85,000. Where's my text? Steps value. Here it is. That's the text, and then I can make it a little smaller. I just need to ensure that again it's right aligned. And then if I come over here, if I change the value to like 20, you see it starts from the right. If I say blah 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 blah, you see it's gonna of course I didn't want it to be wrapping, so that's something that I need to fix. I don't want it to wrap, so it has to be something like that. And instead of something too long, if you do something like that, you see it's gonna be at least enough. So I'm gonna do, for example, like 85k, 85,000, so it's gonna show like that. Perfect. So now that you have this, now that you have that widget, how do you populate it with code? How will code access this? The thing that you need to do the same way that you do in Flutter is you create components. So in this particular case, I'm going to move all of this and I'm going to make it as a separate component, and then I'm going to bring it into my into Rive, into Flutter. From Flutter, I'm going to access those components, and then I'm going to populate them. Let's finalize some of the other pieces. That way we can do it all together. So I'm going to do this one on this side. I'm going to do these two over here, and then we're going to go to Flutter. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this component right here, the value. I need actually all of this: the value, the path, the running shoe, the steps bar value, and the background. All of that, I'm going to group it into one single group. So you can right click and say wrap in group, And you see now I have one whole group. The way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to take this into a separate component, and then I'm going to reuse it for other things. Let me show you how you do that. So I'm going to create another artboard. That's how you create components. You add another artboard. I'm going to make this also 500 by 500. And I'm going to copy. Actually, I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to copy and paste here. And then that's it. And I'm going to call this guy, dial, like, measurement dial, something like that. And then this one, I'm going to be able to import it back into the other, but I could reuse this one for other things. So I'm going to remove the background. And you see, the way that you create components in Rive is you select your artboard, and then you go over here, and then you click this little icon right here, the one that gives you, the one that says create component. And then what it does, it makes it all purple around it. That's how you know that it's already a component. Now I'm going to come back to my original component, and I'm going to also make it into a component. And I'm going to get rid of this. So I don't need this. See? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my component inside. I'm going to bring that component back in as a reusable component. Because what I'm going to do later is this. I'm going to say, I'm going to do add a component. And then, actually, let me reload it. That way you can see it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that component into my existing component. You click here on the component. And then you click anywhere. You find your component, and there it is. Look, I'm going to add my component right here. And look at the cool thing. I already have a component, but I can add another component. So I can do this, and this one this is going to be the steps. And then I can just copy paste. And look, I have another component right there. So I can use the same component for two things. I want to use it, one for the battery, and then the other one for the steps. And then I can use them, and I can reuse them as many times as I want. So that is the cool thing about, actually, I want to make this, yeah. So this is okay. So I can keep it right there. That way it's pretty similar to the other one, something like that. So look, you do like, 160 and then something like that. Actually, a little more. Yeah, something like that. We could do like 165, something like that. Perfect. So there it is. So you see, I was able to create this component here, but then I'm reusing it twice there. Also, I want to be able to change colors. I want to be able to change icons. I want to be able to change the text. So that's why you promote reusability in your widgets. So that is pretty much what you do. So you want to promote reusability. So let's now come back again to this widget, and we're going to change some properties. So now how do you make it? How do, using view models and using the concept of data binding, you populate this widget right here. So you create another view model that populates this widget right here. So this is how you do it. So I'm going to create another view model. I'm going to create one view model called measurement view model. And this measurement view model is because I'm going to be making this widget reusable, so I can use it both for the battery and for the steps, something like that. Now, what do I need? I need one property to populate the label. So I'm going to add a string. Then I'm going to call this label. I need one for the icon. So maybe we can flip between multiple icons, like maybe you want the steps icon, and then you need the battery icon, something like that. So I'm gonna need an enum, an enumeration. So this is where the enums come into play. Enums are just like in programming languages, just like a predefined list of values. So I'm gonna create an enum right here, and then I'm gonna call this icon type. Then you create your enum, and then you give it values. So I'm going to do two values. One is going to be called steps, and another one is going to be called battery. That way I can flip between the two icons. So I'm going to add my icon types. One is going to be called steps. Another one is going to be called battery. You create these types, and then you bring them back into your view models. In this case, you select your measurement view model, and now you add an enum of the type that you just created. So I'm going to click here, and you do enum, and this type is going to be icon type, and then I'm just going to call it also icon type. And in this particular case, you can make it by default is going to be steps. You see, so it's very much like programming, but you're using like this tool. So you see, I have the label, I have the icon type. I'm going to need a number to populate my to populate the bar. And also maybe let's give it also a color, because I want to give it a color to the bar. So I need a number for the value, like the value of the bar, and I'm gonna need a color for the, the color of the bar. So let's start binding these things. So let's come over here. Let's start binding some of these pieces in here. So I'm gonna bind the value, which is the string, to the value, to the label of the measurement view model. But remember, I was missing something. I go to my artboard and I need to bind it to my new view model, the one that's called measurement VM. There it is. And we can leave the default instance for now. Now I'm gonna do the bindings of the thing. So I'm gonna bind the data bind my measurement VM to the label, and now it's gonna say 85K. There it is. Now I'm gonna bind the color of the, what are the things? I need the background. I'm gonna bind the color. Look, I'm gonna bind it to, can you guys see it there? I'm gonna move my big head. Here it is. And then now if you see, I'm gonna bind the color to that. That's it. Now I'm gonna, the bar value, I'm gonna bind the color also. And there it is. Now how do I do the icon? Because now I want to show an icon that's either the steps or the battery. The way that you do is you bring the battery. Let's bring the battery in. I think this is the one. Perfect. That's okay. I think I'm going to change it to like white so I can see it. Perfect. So the way that you do it is you bring these two icons very close to each other. Just, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring my battery over to here. Then I'm going to rotate it like so. Something like that. So I'm going to make it like here. Perfect. So that's going to be like the battery. And maybe I can make it a little bigger. There it is. Something like that. I think that's okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my two icons, which are this running shoe and the battery. And then I'm going to make these two into a solo. A solo is like a toggle in Rive. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this one. I'm going to rename this one battery. It has to be the same name as the enum that I created earlier. And this one I'm going to call it steps. Got it? Now I'm going to wrap it in a solo, like a toggle. Now I'm going to bind this solo to my enum. The enum has two values, and whichever value shows, like here, look, is going to either be steps or battery. It's either steps or battery, just like that. So I'm going to make this icon, and now I'm going to bind my solo to that icon property called icon type, and I'm going to do a converter. That's something that I haven't shown yet, which I'm going to do now. And this is the reason why. Because enums are strings. They need to be converted to the solo representation. And then you need a string for that. So I'm going to create a converter of type string. And then I'm going to call it, it's a type convert to string. And I'm going to call this enum converter. So you need a converter because the value of the enum, you need to convert it to to a string, and then that string, you give it to the solo, and the solo is going to check, okay, which string is under here? So I have battery and steps, and then it's going to bind it accordingly. So let's do it again. So I'm going to do my icon. I'm going to update the binding. I'll say icon type, and I'm going to use the enum converter. There it is. And last but not least, I'm going to bind the color to the icons, and that's something that I didn't do earlier. So I'm going to do it now. Data bind to the color, and the steps also, I'm going to bind it to the color. There it is. Perfect. So now that I have these bound, now how do you make it so that you can use like battery, steps, and then you can reuse it in your main widget up there? So let me show you how you do it. Go back to your data type right here. We're going to create two instances of the measurement VM. Remember, you're going to create instances. You're going to create one instance for the steps, one instance for the battery. So the measurement is going to be this green, right? So your measurement VM, you can create the instances. You're going to create one instance for the steps and one instance for the battery. The steps is going to be like green. The value, we're going to use the value later. The icon type is going to be the steps, and the initial value of the label, let's make it, 250,000. Let's say you're doing 250,000 steps. For the battery, let's change the color. Let's make it like blue, something like that. So I'm gonna do blue. The value of the battery, 5 is the icon is gonna be battery, and the initial value of the label is gonna be 50%, for example. Like it's gonna be at 50%. So now, how do you test it in here? How do you test it? You're gonna bind that instance, either one of the instances that you have. You're gonna bind it to this artboard. That way you can test it. So let's run it, and let's see if it works. So there it is. You see, now you have 250,000. The value is still not propagated, and you have the shoe. Now, if I switch it to the battery, look what happens. Changes this to blue. Okay, I need to still bind the color. You see, it changed to blue. The icon changed and the 50% showed, but I still need to bind the text. So let me make sure to bind the steps color. I need to bind it to the color property. And now let's try it again. And there it is. My widget is already bound to the battery. And then when I do steps, it's gonna be the steps. When I do the battery, it's gonna be the battery. Perfect. And let me try the number. You see the value? Let me see the value if it changes. So the value is not changing is because we need to bind it to that value. So let me show you how you do it. So the value is this one right here, this this whole path. And then where you're gonna be binding it to is to that path animation, which is right here. Look. You're gonna click here, and remember when you go to effects, the trim effects, you're gonna bind it to the start of the property. Look, remember, is it the end? I'm sorry, it's gonna be the end. So the end is gonna be between 0 and 20, and then you're gonna bind the value to that property right here. And then later we're gonna do a normalization calculation. So I'm gonna data bind it to the measurement VM to the value, not the label, the value. And then now let's try it. So if I run it, and there it is. Now I can change my value from here, and then you see that my value changes. You cannot go beyond 20, otherwise, you're gonna go like that. So you need to keep your value between 0 and 20%, and you can just normalize it. Perfect. So now that we have this, how do you consume it in here in your main widget? That way you can reuse it. This is how you do it. This is the concept. You have a view model for this one called WatchFace VM, but the cool thing is that a view model can have other view models inside. That's the cool thing. View models can have view models. So the way that you do is you go back to your data, go back to your mesh to your watch view model right here, WatchFace view model, and I'm gonna add 2 view models, one for the steps and one for the battery. So I click here, and look what it says, view models. So you need to find the view model type, which is the measurement view model. So you add 2 measurement view models, one called steps, and then you duplicate this one and you make this one for battery. Now that you have your 2 steps, remember that a view model can have an instance. Remember that. So the way that you do it is in your steps VM, you wire it to your steps instance. I'm sorry, right here. So this is the steps measurement VM. Sorry about that. So I have the steps instance, and in my battery, I need to do my battery instance. Now they are both wired up to the corresponding instance. One is for steps, one is for batteries. And when I run it, let me see, I think it's still, okay. Now I have the battery here. You see, it's still not bound. Hold on. So let me come back over, and then the way that you bind it is you select the corresponding widget. This one is for the, which one is this for? This one is for the battery. So I do battery, and then you bind it to the corresponding view model. Look, you go here and you do the steps. I'm sorry, this is the battery. And then your other component, you bind it to the steps view model. So to the steps instance of that measurement view model. Now if you run it, boom, there it is. You see, now you have 2 components, one for the battery, one for the steps, and then you have your time as normal. For example, like here, you could do, you can change the value here. You can change the value also here. You can continue changing your numbers in here. For example, like, 12, 45, and then you do that. Let's add the remaining two, the top over here. Let's add the remaining two, and then we're gonna leave it like that, and then we're just gonna, oh, actually, wait, hold on. I need the string for my AM or PM, remember. So I'm gonna add a new string, and then this is gonna be, you know, a time. And then it's either AM or PM. So I'm gonna bind it to that AM, what is that text? Where's my text? Right here, and this is gonna be called time. I'm gonna wire it to the time right here, the time string, and then later with the code, I'm just gonna do it's either AM or PM. I'm just gonna add the two remaining strings, which I think in our design we have something called the for the date and for the alarm. So that's the two ones that we need. So I'm just gonna add one here for the, let's say, you know, April, you know, 26. In this case, it's gonna be Thursday, blah blah blah. We're gonna have it right up here, and then we're gonna add another one for the, like, an alarm here, for example. Like, you know, it's gonna say, for example, here it's gonna say, you know, 7:46, you know, like that. And then we're gonna add our little alarm clock. So here it is. So the alarm clock, I'm gonna make it white. I think that's how it is in our design. So let me bring it over here. And this one, actually, I can keep it like that. I can keep this one down here. Actually, if you want, we can keep it simple. Let's just keep this one like that. But I would have rather make it, you know, much cooler. Let's make sure that is right aligned. Okay, no wrapping. Perfect. So there it is. So see, we're going to have that right there. And then this one, I definitely want this one. So I'm going to make this go around the path. So I'm going to add another ellipse. Let me zoom out, and then I'm going to add another ellipse. This is going to be for that top one right there. And then I'm going to say date path. I'm going to remove the background, select my widget, say textiles, the modifier, sorry about that. Text modifiers, follow path, select my target, which is the date path. There it is. And now my date is gonna be, I could probably rotate the date path a little bit. There it is. And now I know that it's gonna be, it's gonna go around the, you know, this whole thing right there. Perfect. So I want it a little more in the center, and there it is. Now, anytime that I do, you know, whatever the date right here, the date path, the date, this is, I'm gonna call the time below alarm, and the top one is going to be called date. And then I'm going to need these two properties also in, of course, remember, I need those properties. I need to make this center and like that. Perfect. I need these two properties in my view model. So I'm going to add two more properties, one called date and one called alarm. And I'm going to just bind it to this. So let's go back over. I'm going to go to my alarm time, and I'm gonna bind it to the alarm property. I think I have the alarm right there, and I have the date, which is right here, and I'm gonna data bind it to the date. There it is. So now if I, of course, remember, if I run it, it's gonna say initial time, you know, initial value. I'm sorry, there it is. It says initial value all over the place. So you need to ensure that your defaults, you know, remember when you come over here and then you stop it, make sure that the initial values are what they need to be. For example, you know, something like that. The date has to be something like April, you know, 25. And the time is either AM or PM, something like that. Perfect. So now if I run it, you see now it loads correctly. Perfect. Now I think we're ready to go back to, Flutter. I've already populated all the properties that I need. Now I'm gonna go to Flutter and let's populate these things, and then we're gonna build our watch face. So now that I have everything is saved. Remember that I already downloaded my watch face. I'm gonna delete this one. I'm gonna now download the new one. I'm gonna publish to Rive, explore my Rive file, export it, perfect, and there it is. So I'm gonna bring my watch face back into my code right over here. I'm going to drag it. I'm just going to overwrite it because I don't need the old one. So that's what I need. Right now, I'm going to populate hours and minutes. That's okay. Let's reload, and then let's see if it's actually loading correctly. So let's do Flutter run -d Chrome. Let's load it. And then let's see if at least the default shows in our watch face. Awesome. I hope you guys are, I know that some of you are already joining there. Thank you so much. Thank you for sticking all the way through. We're almost about to wrap up because you see, I already loaded my face, my watch. And now what I want to do is I want to populate everything in here from Flutter, not from Rive, but from Flutter. The way that you do it is, remember, the same thing. We're going to finish populating the other properties, for example, like the date, the time, and the alarm. For example, we're just going to do bogus values. But remember, if you do VM.string, and then remember, have one called alarm, and then the alarm could just be, for example, whatever, the current time. Like the way that I had it before. For example, I had something like this, remember. And then you could do, like that, the way that it was showing before. I had it right there. You could do the, now that hour, and, and now that minute, something like that. Let's reload it. And there it is. It's loading the time right there. Now let's load the date, for example. Like if we want to load the date, you could do VM dot string, and then you do date, and then for example you could do dot value, and then you could do for example, of course you want to load well, I needed to import the date format, right? Like you could do the internationalization formatting. For now, I'm just gonna put something, whatever, today's date, like March 5th, something like that. Let's see if at least it shows. I'm going to leave this for you for homework so that you can just rebuild it real quick. There it is. You see, now it says March 5th, and then it shows at the top. I still need to show like these properties right here. Remember, we need to populate the value here, and these values are still hard-coded. How do you access the child view models of those properties right there? How do you do that? The way that you do it is you access the view model the same way that you access these top level properties. You're going to access these view models. Remember, we have two view models, battery and steps. And then each view model has properties underneath it. It has color, value, icon type, and label. We only care about color, value, and label. Icon type is going to remain the way it is. But you need to access these two view models, the battery and steps. You need to name them exactly like that. So the way that you do it in Flutter, you do this. You say VM. Let me zoom in, that way you can see it. You have to say VM view model, and then in this case, my view model is called, what did I call it? Battery and steps. So I'm gonna do the battery one first. Battery. And then now you go inside and tap into the properties that you have inside. Is either, for example, color, label, or value. So I'm gonna do let's do the color, for example. If you want to change the color, instead of like, let's say blue, you can change it to red. Let's say when the battery goes beyond, like 10%, you want to change the color. You could do that in Flutter right here. Look, you can just say dot color. And then you say color, and what is the name of the color? I just called it color. And then here I could just say dot value colors dot red. Let's see. And there it is. Look, I changed it to red from Flutter into Rive, and then I didn't have to do much. I can change it to like purple. And there it is. Wait, hold on. I didn't. I did purple here. It's purple here. Sorry. Is the property still called color? Remember. And then I can make this purple, for example. And then I feed that color into it, and then it is. You call it to purple. Now let's change that value. Instead of like 50%, you can come over here and say VM that view model battery number, but it's not number. It's a label, so it's a string. And then you call this label. And then you can use, for example, like the battery plus, and you can pick up like the level of your battery of your device, and then you can populate it here, and you say, 10%. Now, if you load it, and if you reload it right here, you see now it says 10%, but you want to show the value in here. The way that I do it, like I normalize the value between 0 and 20%. I created like a little very simple normalization calculation, something like that you just give it a minimum and a maximum, and then it just like normalizes it for you. For example, the battery, the way that I do it is like that. You do VM, that view model, battery is a number. Now this is a number. And what is the name of the label? A value, actually value. So I'm gonna call it value. Look right there, value. And then here I just normalize a value between 0 and 100, because that's how I want it. I want the battery to be between 0 and 100. And then you give it a value, like let's say, 75, for example. But instead of doing that, let me make the var here. I'm gonna say battery level, and then I'm gonna say, 75. Then here I'm gonna just extrapolate it here and say battery level, right? I could do it like that, battery level, and then I just feed the battery level here as well. There it is. Well, it needs to be a double, so I need to say that to double. Let me reload it, and then now if you see it, 75%, and it's actually at 75%. If I change this to 50, let me bring this back to let's say blue. And now if you take a look at it, you see it's going to be at 50%, actually showing at 50% of the bar. If I say 10%, and then if I reload it, now you see that the value is at 10% and it's showing that. Let's go to the steps, and then let's finalize that piece. And then it's pretty much the same thing. You can copy paste this, and then now I'm going to access the inner view model steps. You can do steps value. And then here is going to be, it's not going to be battery. The view model, the child view model is called steps. Perfect. You will have a label and a value. Why? Because we made that a reusable component, remember. And instead of battery level, it's going to be the steps value. And then it's going to be like in thousands or whatever. Like you could make it, for example, like, you could do the calculation on the steps. Like, oh, if it's greater than 1,000, then, shrink it to like a K or something like that. And then let's say the maximum value could be, like 5,000 steps. And then now it's going to normalize this bar in a value between 0 and 5,000. And then now you can just pass the value in here and say, for example, steps value to double. And then here I can say, 1,500. The maximum is 5,000. The minimum is 0 and the maximum is 5,000. So I just created, remember, like I showed you, a little normalization function that just normalizes a value between 0, a minimum and a maximum, and then you just normalize the middle value. Then now if I reload it, check it out. See, out of 5,000 steps is showing the 1,500 steps in there, and then you show it like that. You see. Now the only last one that I need to bind is this one, the one for the time, and it's pretty much the same thing. So you could do, for example, another one right here. You can keep it at the top over here, and then we can say VM dot string, and then I say time, and then remember it's just do that value, and then all you need to say is like if the time is greater than 12, you could just do if hour is greater than 12, because I'm using the then is I'm sorry, is PM, otherwise is AM, something like that, something simple, whatever you want to do. And then if you reload it, there it is. Now it loads PM, and now you have your face watch pretty much loaded, and now you can load it onto your watch. The way that you do it, in the way that now you prepare your project so that you can load it on a watch, you cannot load it on a watch just like this. You just built it, but you can now load it on a watch straight up. The way that you do it, you go to Android, because now you're preparing this watch face to be loaded, let's say, on a watch like this. Look, on this one, for example, right? So the way that you do it is you need to go to your Android configuration, and then you go here to you go to App, Source, Main, and you go to the Android manifest. So you got to do a couple of things in the Android manifest. The first thing that you need to add in the manifest, at the top right here, I'm going to zoom in, that way you could see it. You need to add this line. This line that says uses feature Android hardware type watch, this designates your application as a watch application. If you don't have this, when you load it to the Google Play Store, you don't want your phones to see this application. You only want this to show on this app, on the store, on the Google Play Store of the watch, on the WearOS Google Play Store. You only want to see it here on the Google Play Store of the watch. The way that you do it is you designate it as a watch. This is not going to show on the regular Google Play Store. It's only going to show for your watches. So that is the first thing that you need to do. The second thing that you need to do is you need to do a hack. Well, it's not a hack, but remember that we're not building a watch face. We're building a WatchFace app. It's an application that will double up as a watch face. But the reason that this is a full-blown application and we're just making it as a watch app, as a watch face, is because we're designating it to be a watch. We're using Rive to create the face, but if you truly want to create an original watch face, you need to create it with WFF, the watch face format. And that only thing is just like it's just an XML. You don't want just, but if you do it with an XML, you don't have the capabilities of like Flutter. You won't be able to talk to other services. You won't be able to call like Gemini. You won't be able to use Rive. You're only going to be able to just do an XML, load it to the store, and then that's it. You have a watch face. You just design it with XML. But it's pretty lightweight. It is pretty good with the battery, but you won't be able to do the cool things that we're doing. So the way that you make this, so that you can load it as your watch and make it as the home launcher app that loads like a watch face, in your intents, like right here, you see where you have like intent filters, that you have the main and the launcher. You need to add two more. You need to add the home and the default. You have the main. You have the launcher. The main meaning, this is the main this is the main intent, the main application. The launcher is because you're gonna add it to the launcher, like wherever you can tap it and you can launch it as an application. Home is because you're gonna be able to add it as a home launcher application, and default because this is gonna make now the default application when you load it. And so I'm actually gonna show you exactly those things right now. So once you add your filters, you need to add the home intent and the default intent. You add the watch designation right here. This is telling it, remember, this is a watch face. Then when you do that, then you can load it to any device. Now let's see if I can connect it to my device. I'm gonna move this over. We're almost wrapping up, guys. Thank you so much again for staying all the way. Now if I come over here and then I'm going to try to connect it to my device. The way that you can connect to the device, you have to use wireless Wi-Fi. Let me see if I do wireless debugging via Wi-Fi. I hope it connects it. And then I'm going to show you in the device. So I'm going to now try wireless debugging. Here it is. Look, you have to, I hope you guys can see it. Actually, let me switch the screens. That way you can see it. So here I'm enabling the developer mode in my application. You do wireless debugging. I hope you guys can see it there. You do wireless debugging, and then once you turn it on, you have to allow it. You have to allow. This is just like a regular Android device. You have to allow, and then you have to pair it with a device. Look, you have to use the pairing. You have to connect it to your Wi-Fi. It has to be connected to your Wi-Fi. So the way that you do it, now I'm going to switch to the code. And the way that you pair it via wireless, you have to say ADB pair. I know Camilo, because Camilo is like an Android expert. He probably knows all of this. So the way you have to say ADB pair, and then you have to put the IP address of the watch, because remember, I'm gonna be pairing it via wireless. So let's see if it's gonna connect. So I'm gonna go pair a new device. I'm gonna do my IP address of the watch. Actually, the IP address of the watch. Sorry about that. Let's try it again. So I'm gonna do. Give me 1 second. It's just reloading. I actually have this other one, remember, but I don't think. Let me see if this one is gonna try to. So my watch is starting again, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try. I wish you guys could see it like that. I wish you guys could. I could Next time I'm gonna have another camera, that way you guys can see you know, the watch itself. But what I'm trying now is I'm trying the wireless debugging. I'm gonna connect the wireless debugging. See, now it disconnected from the Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna try one more time. Let me take a look. I'll do the connections. I'll connect it to the Wi-Fi. You need to ensure that it's connected to the same Wi-Fi as your laptop. Otherwise, then you won't be able to connect. So I'm connecting it. I'm connecting it to my Wi-Fi. I'm connecting my watch to the Wi-Fi. There it is. It's connected. Now I'm gonna go to the developer options. Go to the wireless debugging. Flip the wireless debugging, and there it is. Look, now I have to say pair with a new device. I'm gonna pair it with a new device, and you have to copy the code and the IP address. So my IP address with the port is 33027, and right next to it you have to do the pairing code, which is 332745. So let's try that, and you see it says successfully paired to your watch face. So let's see if it's actually connected. See, like you should be able to see it here, like as part of your devices. Like you should be able to pair it. It usually takes a little bit or a couple of tries. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip the wireless debugging. I'm gonna try it again because it didn't connect. So I'm gonna try to pair it again. So I'm gonna do, and then if not, that's okay. I know you guys trust me, and because otherwise I don't want to spend like the whole time trying to connect it here. So I have to do the port. It's 37095. It changes all the time for me. 405690. That's the pairing code. Now it says that it's fully connected, but if you see, it's not showing here in my emulators. But anyway, once you do that, you actually can connect to your watch like that via ADB pair, and then you can deploy it to the device. There are other ways in which you can do it. For example, I could do this. I could come over here. Look, like that. This is another way in which I can deploy it. Check this out. So I can. Remember, never leave, always be creative and never be stopped by anything. The way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to say Flutter Flutter build APK. So I'm going to be building an APK out of this project. And then all I could do is send this APK to my email, and then I'm going to load it on my phone, on my watch. I could do that even via email. Like I could do that. You could also do, you could try to connect it. There's no connection per se. You can use like this cable, but this is for charging. But you usually don't use that for connecting unless other phones allow you to use that as like not only for charging, but also you use it for transferring files. So you could do that as well. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to be building the APK. I'm gonna send it to my email. I'm gonna see if I can access it via Gmail from here. Like let's say if I have Gmail, let me see if I do have Gmail. Right, let me see. I think I do, and then I could do it like that. So let me see. This one is gonna be okay. I think it's gonna take a little more because it's gonna. But anyway, I can even send it to you guys, and then you can load it on your watches or whatever. You can site load it like that. But you see, my APK is already ready. If I had Gmail in here, I would have been able to connect it. So let me try one more time. Let me try one more time connecting it to the. Site loaded. I'm sorry, connected to the wireless debugging to see if it's actually working. So I'm gonna do enable ADB debugging. I'm gonna revoke the debug authorizations. I'm gonna do wireless debugging, and then I'm gonna try one more time to pair it, see if it's gonna work. So I'm gonna do ADB pair. So I'm gonna pair it one more time, and let's see if it works. Because usually, like the third is the charm. So I'm gonna do 19. Colon, I have to add the port 37957. That's the port, and then the pairing code 096879 is gonna try to see. It says successfully paired, but you don't see it here loading, and it's because probably I have to restart, the whole emulator and all of that, and so that it actually works. But so far, I think you guys. I hope you saw exactly what I built. Let me load it again just so that you guys can see it. And that is the reason why I was doing it in Chrome, because I knew that if I do it locally, at least debugging it, the watch usually takes a little bit to connect. but that's okay. At least we were able to build the whole watch face, and let's see how it looked compared to the design. So this is the original design. This is our watch face, the one that we just created. And I think it came out kind of nice. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I was able to go over the concepts of view models and Rive, data binding, just using your Flutter application as just the headless shell so that you could load this Rive experience like that. And then you can build really cool experiences like that. Please feel inspired by, for example, if you go to Dribble and you take a look at, for example, like all the watch faces that are available there. Try to get inspiration from all the watch faces that you have in there, and you can build your own experiences using Rive and Flutter by going to places like Dribble. You could also do like Pinterest. Pinterest also has like really cool. You could over here and say like, you know, watch face UI, and then it gives you like a bunch of watch face UIs. You can find inspiration. Remember, I'm not a designer myself, but I found inspiration by other designers and finding really cool UIs. For example, like you could build this right now. Now that you know how to build it, you could create this one as well. So go out there, find inspiration, build stuff. Now that you have all the know-how, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take a look at the videos that I just posted, so you can learn exactly to build experiences like that. And now that, you know, we've already wrapped up, let's do the raffle. I hope you guys, everybody who is here and submitted their email in the raffle, let's see if you guys, let's see who won. I hope everybody in the raffle is here. So now let's get everybody out of there, and we're gonna use our usual wheel of names. I hope you guys can see it. Is everybody seeing? Let's pick up everybody from the chat, and then let's drop it in here. A $25 gift card is going to arrive right at your inbox right after this session. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to continue bringing more content, but you know, of course, live work stays in the way. And of course, you know, I definitely want to continue sharing with the community, but this is the way that I find it best to do. So stay tuned. Now let's see if you guys, again, take a look at this. Now, is your name here? Let's make sure that everybody who is in the chat, your name is in there. I hope everybody is. Good luck to everybody. Now we're going to spin the wheel. You're going to get a $25 gift card right after this session. We're going to, as soon as I stop the stream, we're going to get that. So good luck to everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining this session. Let's spin the wheel. Good luck to everybody. I hope you're here in the chat. So I'm going to spin. Good luck to everybody. One Amazon gift card, $25, and it goes to Carol. Carol, are you in the chat? If you're in the chat, please say so. Let me see you reply. If you're in the chat, say that you're there. Otherwise, I pick somebody else. I'm going to start removing. I have to see you in the chat. You just have to say yes, and then we do it. So, are you in the chat? If you're in the chat, let's count. Okay, are you in the chat? If you're not in the chat, we're gonna spin it one more time, and then let's do it. I guess Carol, I love you. I know you're my homegirl. Oh, there it is, Carol. I thought you were perfect. Carol, congratulations. Thank you so much. You're always a great supporter. Carol, she's also a GDG lead. You know, from our communities, our GGG communities in Florida. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you everybody for joining. So make sure to, again, go to YouTube, go to my channel, go to Roman Just Goes right here. If you go to the channel, and then if you can take a look at the new playlist that I just submitted right here. Look, the new series is right here, and you have all the videos available for that. So it's all the videos. If you look at the playlist, you see all the videos available for that. So make sure to go check out the videos. Everything that you saw in here is available in those videos. I hope you guys can continue supporting this type of efforts. Thank you so much, everybody. Now we've wrapped it up. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session. My name is Roman. This is Roman Just Goes. See you on the next session, and I hope you guys can continue building stuff with Flutter, building stuff with Rive. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support. See you until the next one. Thank you so much, everybody.